Hey, Dr. Joe here again on this Wednesday evening. Hope you're doing fine wherever you are, and hope you had a good week. I certainly had an interesting week, and so on. So let's have a look. So today we're going to talk about negotiations, and the reason why I picked that subject is that it's really important. I think almost everything that we do, there's some level of negotiations involved. Whether it's if you got children, depending on how old they are, whether it's a seller, a buyer, whether it's your boss, your spouse, your significant other, all those things. At some point, you're kind of either, you know, uh, you're involved in negotiations in order to create some kind of compromise, and so, in my opinion, the most effective negotiations are when you get to win-win scenario when both parties are agreeable with the outcome. And I know there are some books out there who say, no, forget that. It's all that you should win, and the other person, don't worry about them. If they lose, then so be it. And but you have to win. I mean, that's one approach, and which it may work for a lot of people, a lot of situations. But today we're going to kind of focus more on the win-win. That way, when you walk away, everyone's happy with the outcome, and you don't feel like they took over or got over on you, and likewise, the other party doesn't feel like you got over them. So mastering the art of negotiation. We're going to kind of break it down to 6 parts here, and so on. So let me just kick it off. And don't forget, towards the end, we're going to have the Ask Dr. Joe. So if you've got some questions, anything to do with real estate investing, then please put your questions in, and I'll try and get to them. Kudos to Femi. He bought his house last week. Congratulations. And so that's all now done. And we're now moving into the renovation phase. And he bought a house that was a 4, I think it's 4-3. We're going to turn it into a 6-4. 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms. And so we're starting the rehab, I think, started today. And ultimately, the goal is to rent it out as a buy and hold with the Section 8 tenants. So he's kind of implementing my strategy, and I'm working very, very closely with Femi as part of this new pilot program I have. So I'm looking forward to it. It's exciting, and and so on. Anyway, getting back to negotiations. So have you ever wondered why, some people, effortlessly, enter negotiations, with ease, and other people are just struggling, and it really, it makes them sweat. And negotiations really, it's like the invisible thread through every real estate transaction. We're buying houses typically from sellers in distress, and so there is some level of negotiation that's involved. And the funny thing is that when you enter, we always think that, well, the seller just wants the most they can get, and therefore price is the driver, and it's all about how much money can I offer? Can I offer more than the next guy or the next girl in order to get this deal? And what I found through my experience is that money is not always the driver for some people. It is for some people, but not all people. And therefore, if you're able to understand the motivation of the other party, then you can create scenarios which you don't have to kind of race to the bottom in terms of jacking up your price offer and things like that. So and I've experienced that several occasions where I wasn't the highest guy, but I still got the house. Likewise, I'm sure you have contractors whereby you didn't give it to the guy who gave you the lowest price. Because sometimes it's not just about the price. It's can this person do the job? Do I feel comfortable with them? Do I have the experience? And am I going to be able to get to the finish line without a whole lot of drama and stress and strife and things like that? So it's not always about money. when it comes to negotiations. There are subtle other issues, and that's what we're going to talk about as part of the discussion today. So, but the important thing is I think you should use negotiations as an opportunity to develop relationships, and and so on. So that's what we're going to dive deep and into this. So let's talk about number one, or step one, which is understanding the basics of negotiation. There are some fundamentals of negotiations, and so that's what we're going to talk about now. And what's the goal here? The goal is to lay the foundations for effective negotiations by understanding some of the fundamental principles. So that's what we're going to talk about, some of the fundamental principles associated with negotiations before we get to steps 2 through 6. So, negotiation, obviously, there's the importance to learn the human element of this thing. You're dealing with other people. It's just like when I'm a landlord, I'm a buy and hold investor. At the end of the day, I'm renting my house to human beings. I'm not renting my house to quote unquote doors. It's not about how many doors do I have. These doors are human beings. So if you see people as doors, then you go in there with one perspective. If you see these people as human beings, people who have the same needs as you, they're looking for the same things that you're looking for from a house, the same things that you're looking from a landlord. If you see them as that, then you kind of enter the discussions differently. So there is a human element to this thing, which you really shouldn't overlook. And so let's say, for instance, you have a seller who's emotionally tied to a property. Maybe they were raised there for a long time. Maybe there's some very emotional, sentimental values and associated with that home. Now, you can go in there and say, hey, let's cut to the chase. How much do you want for your house? Let's see if we can cut a deal. Okay, you're totally disregarding, don't care about their situation, their emotional attachment. All you want to know is the bottom line. Okay. That's one approach. I'm saying in a situation like that, if you take the time to understand, the drivers for the seller, what's the emotional issues that this person is dealing with. It could be death. It could be, loss of job. It could be divorce. It could be anything. Okay. But if you take the time to understand that, then you can factor all those things into the discussion and get to know the person on a human level. And maybe you can craft your offer, with that knowledge in mind. Okay. You can make the connection with the seller. And therefore, it's not really just a transaction. This is more of a continuation of a relationship, or continuation of their story, whatever that story is, and and so on. So by delicately intertwining the emotional, part of this thing with your understanding of the situation, you can transform really a mere numbers game into more of a shared dream, a shared goal. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know if that if you resonate with me there, but the idea is that there are certain fundamentals associated with a negotiation. It's not just about a bottom line. It's not about just the transaction. It's not all about just let's get it done. There's a human component, and if you incorporate that, then you stand a better chance of having a successful outcome. So, what are some of the action items associated with step one, which is understanding some of the basic real estate principles or fundamentals? I think what we can do, or what you can do, you may want to consider is, let's have a look. See if I can put it up here. I'll put this as, storytelling. Essentially what you're doing, there's a story behind the transaction. There's a story behind the seller, and it may be in your interest to to try to understand that story, and you craft your narrative around that, and and therefore you can sort of connect the dots in terms of providing a compelling story that will resonate with the seller, and hopefully continue their situation, or at least come to a solution for their situation, whatever that is. So that's an action item that you may want to do, is develop some of the talents associated with storytelling. Empathy, that's another action item. Again, you can develop empathy. It's a skill set you can develop. Some people just don't care. I don't care about your situation. I see the world through my prism, and it's my way, the highway. I'm not interested in your situation. I'm not interested in your circumstances. It's just about me. Okay, there's no empathy there. And I think that successful negotiators, they do understand that, and they have skills in trying to understand or be more empathetic, with a person's situation, and try to forge authentic connections. Because that may be the difference between why a seller wants to sell to you versus sell to somebody else, but they just have a connection. And I'll give you a case in point. One of the deals that recently did, it was a listed property, so I went to the house, and the owner was there, and the realtor, wasn't there. The owner was there, and we had a nice chat. We kind of connected on a human level, and they shared with me, some of the history behind the house, their situation, and what was driving them to want to sell. Okay, they were just, I asked a lot of. I was very empathetic. I was very curious, and I had a couple of icebreakers to kind of break the ice, and we had a connection. And the seller felt good with me, and it was a competitive situation. And in the end, I got the house, not because um, I made the highest offer. I didn't, because there was other people making a higher offer, but it's just because the seller wanted to sell to me. And so, I cite that example as to say that, there is value in understanding the human dynamics associated with negotiations. Okay, so that's number one. Number two is, so we've gone through the fundamentals. The next thing now is preparing ourselves for the actual negotiations. And a key part of that is do some research and preparation. Okay, so the goal here, number two, is to equip investors, you and I, with the knowledge and tools needed for what I call strategic negotiations. You're not just going in there, not knowing nothing. You're just, this is, the idea is to prepare yourself. When you go for an exam, you don't just show up on the exam day. You prepare. You review your notes. You review the books. You do some research, and therefore, hopefully, psychologically, you're ready, and hopefully, you just do better when you're prepared. And whether it's a test, whether it's driving, whether it's whatever it is, I'm not a great fan of winging stuff, especially if it's important. So that's what we're going to do. So the goal here is to equip you, in preparing for the actual negotiations itself. So let's just say, for instance, you're interested in a house in a particular neighborhood. Let's just say neighborhood A, whatever that is. Okay. And so you're curious to in deciding, do I want to invest in neighborhood A, or do I want to invest in neighborhood B? Okay. And let's just assume that neighborhood A and B are the same price. So price is not the issue. It's, you got to make a decision as to, do I want to invest in A or B? My thing is that, if you take the time to research neighborhood A and neighborhood B, you can understand some of the dynamics that's going on in terms of what's coming down the path, in terms of development, in terms of transportation, recreations, or maybe shopping, schools. You do the research, and any local development plans from the city. And so, with that knowledge, with that research, I think you can make more, better decision or informed decisions as to whether you should invest in A or B. Okay. So with that knowledge, you can now say, okay, I want to go here for the following reasons. Or if it's long term, I have a funny feeling that over the next 5, 10, 15 years, neighborhood A is going to do better than neighborhood B. That's just based on your knowledge, understanding, and therefore, with that information, you can then go into, when you're buying a house, you can make decisions as to should I invest here or not. And if the decision is yes, I should invest in there, you have knowledge about what the projections are, and therefore you can use that as part of the discussions, the negotiations, if you want to decide to buy a house. So it's not just buying a house, you're investing in a vibrant and a thriving community, if that makes sense. And that's what essentially I think has been one of my you know I will call it successes, but because we really don't know what's going to happen in the future. But the idea is I take a long-term view. It's not just about flipping. It's about 5, 10 years from now. And what I've learned is that not all able neighborhoods, for example, appreciate the same. They don't. And therefore, if you're going to buy somewhere, in my opinion, you should buy in areas where you're more likely to, get appreciation. And so there's some research that you have to do to decide where to buy, how much to pay, and hopefully you'll be the beneficiary of time. Okay, so let's talk about some of the action items. The action items here: deep market immersion. Understanding your local markets. You shouldn't buy anything anywhere. You think you should be strategic. If you want to learn more about a particular area, obviously you can attend meetings, community meetings, meet with local influencers and who are knowledgeable about the neighborhood. You can, have what I call stakeholder meetings or interviews. Get to know people, local business owners, uh, real estate agents, brokers, property managers, appraisers, school principals, city planners. These people have a knowledge of the area. And if you take the time to speak with them, they can give you some very, very good intelligence and, as to what's going on and where trends are and so on. So with that knowledge and insight, it can help you uncover hidden gems and hopefully help you decide where to buy and how much to pay for what you want to buy. So it helps you. I think it puts you in a better position of strength, I think, armed with that knowledge. So that's number two. And number three is now that we've done the preparation, the next thing is to make an offer, and hopefully a persuasive offer, an offer that's likely to be accepted. Okay. So what does that mean? It says that, as I said before, you want to make an offer that is appealing to the seller, the other party. And it's not just about money. It may be about time. Maybe the seller needs more time, and therefore, if you're flexible on time, maybe you can make an attractive offer compared to somebody else. So there's lots of different things based on the understanding of the seller or the other party in order to craft what I call a persuasive offer. So what the goal here is to develop the skills to create compelling and attractive offers such that sellers find it hard to refuse. Okay, that's the goal here in terms of persuasive offers, is to really develop the skills whereby you can create attractive and compelling offers that sellers are going to find very, very attractive and wanted to explore further. So so as I said before, let's just come up with a scenario here. And one was I recall another house which I got where, in fact, it was Femi's house. Yeah, I'll give you that example where the seller he wanted to leave, or to he wanted to relocate to another state by a certain date. And the house had been on the market, and the previous contract fell through. So it's getting closer and closer to that date whereby he wanted to relocate. So time was very, very important for this seller, and the ability to close was very, very important to the seller. So he was a bit more flexible to a certain extent on price, as long as he knew that this person could close by this certain date, because he knew, because the seller wanted to relocate somewhere else. So therefore, armed with that information, we're able to craft an offer that appeals to them. Again, it took some time to get that information from the seller just through conversations and understanding where they were coming from. But with that information, we were therefore able to craft an offer and present it in such a way that they accepted it. And it wasn't always about the highest price. It was certainty of closure. They wanted to be and make sure that if they accept the offer from us, we're going to close by this particular date, and so on. So again, it's not just about the money; it's understanding the person's drive and coming up with things to hopefully address their concerns. So, what are some of the action items associated with creating persuasive offers? Yeah, so let's have a look. Personalization, the ability to incorporate. Oh god, my phone's ringing. Sorry about that. And the ability to personalize the solution and understanding the seller situation, you can craft an offer that's more personable to them. If it's I don't know, if a seller, for example, is so proud of their yard or their garden, maybe if you convince them that you're going to continue this beautiful garden, maintain all their life's work, you'll continue that. Maybe that's something that differentiates you from somebody else. Again, these little quirky little things. Sensitivity training, that could be something you may want to consider. You can identify and understand different people's perspectives, diverse perspectives, and with that understanding can help you craft offers that resonates with different sellers, different situations, and different backgrounds. Okay, so that's number 3. So far we've done 3. Let me just quickly wrap through the first one. First one was all about understanding the basics of real estate negotiations. Number 2 was about research and preparation, preparing for the negotiation itself. And number 3 was crafting a persuasive offer that resonates with the seller. Okay, so let's have a look. So if you got some questions, we're going to do Q&A shortly. So please put your questions in the chat box. I'm going to go to those very, very shortly. And I'll try my best to answer all your questions. Okay, so if you got some questions about real estate, any deals that you're looking at, any situations that you're coming across, or any problems that you're facing, please put them in the chat box, and I'll definitely try to answer them shortly. Let's go to number 4, effective communication. At some point, you're going to have to communicate your offer, either in writing or verbally or whatever it is. So I think it's good to have good communication skills. And so the goal here is to enhance your communication skills, ensuring you have clear and persuasive negotiations dialogue. Okay, so you communicate in such a way that the other party clearly understand what you're trying to do. You understand what they're trying to get at, and it's clear and it's persuasive and it's a dialogue. It's not one dimensional, one directional, and things like that. So what do I mean? So if you feel that the seller is apprehensive, that could be something you may want to factor in. And you need to communicate in such a way that you take that into consideration. So it's not just about words; it's about how you say it. And sometimes there's sort of unwritten cues or understanding unspoken concerns that some people have. Active listening, observations, trying to understand, read people in terms of their fears and their concerns that they may have. They may not tell you, but you can just tell by the expressions on their face, the body language, and just be cognizant, aware of those things, and acknowledging their concerns and coming up with some thoughtful solutions, which hopefully you can transform their uncertainty into opportunities and so on. So your ability not just to hear, but truly understand their situation, and any hesitation that the seller has is going to be really important in order to get successful win-win scenarios. Okay, so what are some of the action items here? Okay, active listening, yes. The ability just to listen, and and hear what this person is saying, and pick up on these subtle cues that they may give you, and based on those subtle cues, you can come up with ways to address their concerns, whether it's verbalized or non-verbalized. Okay, and if it's non-verbal, then learn some of these non-verbal communications, understanding facial expressions, body language, gestures, read between the lines, as they say, and hopefully make your responses appropriately, empathetically, and also reassuringly as well. So that's some of the ideas and some of the action items that you can have, nonverbal, and so on. Then we get to number 5. We've got one more to do. And number 5 is overcoming challenges. You may get challenged. You may get challenges to your offer, or people will push back as part of that negotiation process, and you're going to face it. So the goal here is to equip investors, you and I, with strategies to navigate through challenging negotiations. So again, hopefully this is helpful. Hopefully this is interesting. My goal here is to just kind of these Wealth Wednesdays to be educational, informative, and not a whole lot of fluff, but just get to meet and hopefully give you the information and knowledge to go out there and execute. So the goal here is to equip investors to navigate through challenging negotiations situations. This is overcoming challenges. So for example, if a seller has a house, and as part of your walkthrough you notice some cracks on the wall, there's some potentially structural issues, and during the inspection process, during your walkthrough, for an example, so how are you going to handle that? Obviously you could push back and say, hey, I don't like this house because of this and that and so forth, and but you may see that crack as a potential opportunity, and it could be a way whereby you can educate the seller on what it's going to take to correct the problem. And you can obviously meet up with the engineer or anybody else who can guide you, advise you, and then once you're armed with that information, you can then get back to the seller or through the agent to say, well, this is the reason why the offer that we're presenting is the way it is because of these factors and so on. So so what it does, it showcases your problem solving skills. So you're not just walking away, but you understand there's a situation and you're coming up with some solutions, which hopefully allows the seller to feel that you understand what's going on, and you can come up with some creative solutions rather than just walking away and saying no deals. So let's talk about some action items. Problem solving. I think the idea here is to develop problem solving skills, and in various areas, have a network of relationships with engineers, architects, contractors, so that way when you come across difficult situations, you can pull on the resources and expertise of other people. Negotiation simulation. Before you enter an actual negotiation itself, you can simulate, you can pretend, do what if scenarios. What if I say this, or what if the seller objects to that, and so on. So you can do some simulations beforehand, and therefore you can be able to hopefully handle these objections. You've thought them through beforehand, and therefore you can come up with some good answers. Almost like, remember when I was working, applying for jobs at that time, sometimes you would prepare for the type of questions that the interviewer may ask you, and all these difficult questions that may pull on you, just try to stump you. So preparing for that, any objections that they can bring to you, if you can come up with all those different scenarios, then hopefully it'll help you during the negotiation. And then finally, number 6 is closing the deal. At the end of the day, we have to close the deal, get to the finish line. And so the goal here is to master the art of closing negotiations effectively and ethically. So that's what we're going to do here. And so what we're going to do, visualize the end result. And, if it's the date, visualize the closing date. And, all the things that's required to get you to the finish line. The emotional, efforts that you're gonna have to put together. And so the idea is, what's it going to take to get you to the finish line, and get you to the win-win scenario. So hopefully when you leave, when you finish, everyone's all happy and everyone can move on with their life. Some action items, ethical negotiation workshops. There's some strategies there. So hopefully you're ethical, you got integrity. You can look back and say, I did the best that I could, and everyone's happy, and no one's sort of got sour grapes and things like that. The other one is another action item is preparing for the actual conclusion of all this. What's it going to take to get this done? Be at the settlement table, getting the funds together, making sure you have the down payment together, making sure that you're actually able to execute and get it done. So my friends, that's pretty much it. So the conclusion is that every interaction that you have is an opportunity to build relationships and create win-win scenarios by embracing things like empathy, conducting extensive research, personalizing your offer, honing on your communication skills, overcoming challenges collaboratively, and closing deals ethically. That is the key parts of negotiations. You pave a way to prosperous and fulfilling real estate journey. You're going to be negotiating from now through you finish. So integrate some of these ideas into your process, and I think you'll be fine. So hopefully today was helpful. And all I can say is happy negotiations. So we're going to get to the Q&A part. And if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box, and I'll try to get to them as much as I can. And anything to do with real estate, anything in terms of advice that you want, or you want my take on the situation, please put it in the comment box or the chat box, and I will definitely try to get to you. If you have any emails, if you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot an email to me at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com, and I'll try to respond it. I'm not always the greatest at responding to emails, but I'll give it a shot. And the other thing is that I will be starting, because people have reached out to me on many occasions with questions they want to ask me. This is after the Wealth Wednesdays, and either call me, email me, and I just don't always have the time to respond and give the level of depth that I would like to do. So we're going to create something new. I'm going to call it, Ask Dr. Joe Now. Ask Dr. Joe Now. And so the idea is that, if you want, let's say, to book an hour of my time or 30 minutes of my time, I'm going to have a mechanism to do that, whereby it's you have to pay. It's not free. But the idea is that, you and I can do a one-on-one where we can go deeper into a situation or a problem that you're facing. And hopefully I can sort of leverage, you can leverage my 35 plus years of experience and to help you during that situation or whatever it is. So anything to do with real estate investing, if you want to book some time with me one-on-one, we're going to have the mechanism to do that. Just shoot me an email, and once we got all the pieces together, I'll be sharing that for future. So we didn't have that before, but we're putting that in motion because I just don't have the. I get a lot of calls, and I think I need some structure, whereby I can say to somebody, I'd love to spend more time with you. Just book a time. Here's a link to the calendar. Book a time that works for you, and let me know if you think you need 30 minutes or an hour, and we'll book it. You pay, and then when the time comes, we do a one-on-one, and we can go to a lot of detail during an hour, and hopefully provide you with some guidance and help whatever your situation. So that's something we're going to put together. Ask Dr. Joe now. And once all that pieces are in place, I will provide more information. If you're interested, just let me know anyway. If you think it's a good idea, let me know. If you think it's a bad idea, let me know. But I like the Wealth Wednesday. We will continue to ask Dr. Joe during the Wealth Wednesdays, but we just don't have enough time to really go deep into a particular topic or question or situation that you're encountering. Okay, let's get down to the comments part. Let's have a look here, my friends. And Michelle Carr. Hey, Michelle. Hope you're doing well. I'm not sure if you're here or there, or it was great meeting you last week. I had a good time at the local coffee house, and Michelle's from England, and she spends part of the year here in the US and part of the year in London, or in the UK, and so I think she wants to do some investing. So I look forward to working with you, Michelle, and so on. So Dow too. Hey, greetings from Phoenix. Thank you, Dr. Asmoa. Congratulations, Femi. You mentioned in Femi's new purchase that he's going to add 2 more bedrooms. Where in the house can you have 2 more additional bedrooms? In Femi's case, there's no addition. There's no bump ups, bump outs, or whatever it is. We are creatively using space. So let's have a look. On the first level right now, there's 2 bedrooms. In the second level, there's another bedroom. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's a 3-bedroom. It's a 3-bedroom house. Yeah, 1, 2, and we're creating 6 bedrooms. Okay, so how are we doing that? On one of the rooms, which is kind of a walk-through room, i.e., you have to go through that room to get to another room. We're going to reorient the stairs, and therefore we can get that room that was a walk-through room now becomes a full bedroom. Okay, so that's where 1 extra bedroom comes from. And in the basement right now, there's just 1 large rec room. And so we are going to configure it to whereby we get 2 extra bedrooms. And also we're going to put a bathroom down there, because obviously if you have bedrooms, you need a bathroom close by. And that's how we got to the 6. I forgot, it's 3 right now. 1, 2, 3, yeah, 3. So we're adding 3 bedrooms, 1 on the first level and 2 in the basement to get the 6. So hopefully that answers the question. I may do an event at Femi's house. Maybe we'll do an event. The next event, maybe we'll focus on rehabs and renovations. And so we could do an event there where we can talk about rehabs, renovations, and then you can kind of go through the house, see the house in its midpoint where the rehab's going on, and so on. So that's how we got the 6 Dow 2. And so we added 3 extra bedrooms, and then we added 1 bathroom in the basement. Yeah. Okay, that's how we did it. Let's have a look at that too. You mentioned, again, if you got some questions, please put them in the chat box. I will get to them. You mentioned in Femi's new house scenario that the seller wanted to be sure that the deal would close. Since Femi's offer is the backup offer, does the buyer offer asking price? Since Femi's offer is the backup offer, does the buyer offer asking price or a lower price? Okay, so in this, when I first went to the house, as I said, I just connected with the seller, and this was through a wholesaler, and we just connected. I took the time to understand what his situation was. We chit-chatting, and he's a good guy, and we kind of bonded. And it's interesting hearing his situation, and we found out that he wanted to relocate to Georgia, and he had a contract on the house before that fell through. And so what was important for him, the seller, was certainty of closing. He wanted to make sure that this deal will close by the date that he wanted to relocate. And also, that was a primary driver for him. The wholesaler didn't tell us that, but that's what I uncovered. And so certainty, and we had a good connection. So I think he wanted to do business with me. So that relationship, I think, acted as a help as during the negotiations period. But yeah, I mean, it went through a wholesaler, and Femi did make an offer, and the offer was accepted. And a little bit of backwards and forwards going on. The wholesaler was trying to pull a fast one on us towards the end, but that's another discussion another time. And but the bottom line is that it was partly price, but also partly do we have the ability to close? And that's where I came in. I was sort of saying I was part of Femi's team. I've got 35 years experience. I've got relationships with lenders. And, if I say it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And Bill, and so Femi was able to leverage my credibility because he hadn't done a deal like this before. And so he was able to leverage my credibility. And also, it's not just me. There was other people involved. There was the real estate agent did a great job. And it just really was a team effort. And to get this thing to the finish line, he had a lender who pulled a fast one on him, and so we had to go to plan B, another lender, which, I was able to connect him with, and we are able to get that done. So it was just really a team effort. And, but the bottom line is that the seller felt comfortable with us, and we're able to get the house under contract, and we're able to take it to the finish line. Okay, Katie, Dr. Joe, do you consider properties that have leased tenants in place? If so, what is your approach when negotiating the deal? Okay, the question is, do I like to buy houses where there are tenants in there? I'm not a great fan of that one. It depends. Generally, in the DC area, especially in Washington, DC, it's easy to get someone in your house, but it's a lot more difficult to get them out. So I remember the first house that I bought when I first arrived in the US. I bought it from an investor, and there was a tenant in there. And so I asked the investor what were the tenants like, and he said they were great. And I took him at his word, and found out later on that they hadn't paid him for several months, and essentially he wanted to get rid of the house. So and I was the next the sucker that didn't know any better, and I bought the house. This is the first deal. I knew nothing about real estate and so on. So anyway, so generally, if there's a tenant in the house, then you need to find out more information about the tenant, and you can't always rely on the owner or the landlord to give you the truth, because there may be a hidden agenda there. So you're gonna have to do some due diligence. You're gonna have to look at the lease. You're gonna have to possibly speak with the tenants and engage yourself. Look at, maybe give them an application. But if there's a lease in place, you have to honor that lease. So to a certain extent, you are a little tied. And so if you're buying a property where you're inheriting tenants, I would suggest that you want to do some serious due diligence and just assume the worst. The tenant's not going to pay you, and you may have to evict them or whatever it is, and then you factor that into your offer, as part of the negotiations process, because you don't want a situation whereby you're thinking all these rosy things, and then when you bought the house, you realize that these tenants aren't, what you thought they were going to be, and now you got to deal with the legal system, the landlord-tenant system, in order to get them out, and so on. Diaspora Voices, greetings, Dr. Joe from Ohio. Hi, Ohio. When negotiating, should you ask the seller what they are going to do with the proceeds from the sale? That's a good question, Diaspora. And I think it's something that you got to use. You got to be careful. So obviously, depending on the seller, some sellers are going to say, well, it's none of your business. And but if you're able to find out what they're going to do with the proceeds, then you can structure the offer accordingly, because sometimes the seller doesn't need all the money. They're going to pay taxes on that money and possibly capital gains. and and so on. So maybe they want maybe if they have the proceeds over a period of time, that may be more attractive to pay less taxes. It's a source of cash flow, and there could be opportunities for what we call seller financing, where the seller loans you or doesn't require that you pay all the money up front, but maybe a certain portion that they need, and they'll finance the rest at a certain agreeable interest rate. So that's, or you can, a situation whereby I've done subject twos before, whereby you're taking over a person's mortgage, and therefore you give them something for the equity, and then you continue making the mortgage payments. That's a form of seller financing called subject two. We're not going to go into too much detail today, but maybe I'll do a session, Wealth Wednesday, just on seller financing and creative strategies. So yes, if you can find out more information about the seller, their situation, if they need the money or what they're going to do with the money, then it could help you in terms of crafting an offer that makes sense to them and also makes sense to you. Good question, Diaspora. Joel, hi Joel. Joel and Steve from Baltimore watching tonight. Hey, Joel. I hope you're doing well, and long time no see. So I hope you're doing well. Say hi to Steve, and we got to get together. I apologize, and let's connect and break bread one day. And Joel's what's it called? A buddy of mine got married in Cancun, Mexico, and Andre. And I think you're related to Andre, Joel. And but anyway, we connected in Cancun, Mexico, with Steve, her husband. And I know we have to get together, Joel. So please shoot me an email, and let's try to see if we can hook up a time or connect a time. So, but anyway, I hope you're doing well, Joel. Get Lobister. Hello, Dr. Joe. Thank you for this session. We will be applying for our first loan with only one of our names, but the down payment will come from the joint account. Do you think this will be an issue? Okay, so Get Lobister is buying a house, and she intends to, one person, it looks like they're a couple or two people or a partner, and they're buying a house, and in one person's name. So one person is qualifying for the loan, but the down payment will come from the joint account. I don't think it should be enough. I mean, it doesn't. Well, it depends what kind of loan you're getting, but generally, I haven't had that issue. The bank doesn't really care where the money came from, as part of the due diligence process, you can prove that the money's there. The money has to be in the account for at least 2 or 3 months. They have to what they call seasoned. So the funds have to be seasoned in that account for several months, and then once that's done, then it's my understanding they don't really care. I don't think. But if you want to be safe, you may want to create another account, and and where that money is going to come from. I don't think it's important. I've never had to worry about that. I have lots of joint accounts, business accounts, and I've never had a situation where the bank is concerned about, as long as I have access to the account, as long as I have a legal signature on the account, that's usually enough, I think. But you may want to speak to your loan officer and whoever you're getting a loan from, and explain to them the situation, and they will tell you whether that's going to be an issue or whether it's going to be okay and you have nothing to worry about. So I would definitely reach out to whoever your loan officer is, or the mortgage broker, or your point of contact at the financial institution, and explain to them the situation, and hopefully they can give you some guidance as to if it's going to be an issue or whether it's not going to be an issue. Okay, good question. Got some good questions today. So Michelle, oh, you're in London. Okay. Well, I hope the weather in London is doing well. Well, London is 5 hours, so it's probably 12:52 now, your time. So you're staying up. Hopefully you're staying up to listen to Wealth Wednesday. Obviously you are. And say hello to everybody in London. Say hello to King Charles for me. And I'm not too sure the next time we go to London, but hopefully it's sometime later on. If it's not this year, but early next year. Get love, though. Also, how do we establish joint ownership if the loan is on one of our names? At the settlement table, if you got a loan, okay, so how do we establish joint? If you can have a loan in one person's name, but have two people on title. I've done that several times, because typically what will happen is that if you're savvy, when I first started, you could have up to 20 mortgages in your name. And then it went down to 10. Then it went down to 4. Now it's back down to 10. So, or back up to 10. So if you max out, you get 10, then you get your spouse to do the other 10. So the spouse will be getting the loan after you've maxed out your 10. And then, but you could be on title. That's just you just need to add that to you. You need to provide that instructions to the settlement company and let them know that you want to be on title, and they'll craft the necessary documents such that you are on title. So there's different. I mean, you can definitely have the loan in somebody's name, but have the title in your joint name. That's definitely doable. I've done that many, many times. I don't think it's, again, as long as you got a friendly title company, settlement company, or settlement closing officers, they should be able to do that. The problem is that most jurisdictions, if you want to add your name and you're a spouse, then you don't usually pay transfer taxes. But if it's not a spouse, then it could be a transaction, which means that you could be subject to transfer and recordation taxes, which can be quite expensive, really. And so that's something to consider as well. Ready. Thank you, Dr. Joe. Great session as always. Thank you very much. So again, if you got some questions, we're going to wrap it up at 7:55. If you got some questions, put it in, and I'll definitely try and get to it. Otherwise, we're done for the day. Katie, I've avoided even considering properties that have multiple and/or long-term tenants in place. Risky. I agree there. Have you done cash for keys or crafted an offer that is contingent on the month-to-month tenant moving? Cash for keys, I've done that before, especially if you got a difficult tenant and so on. So, sometimes you just have to hold your nose and just pay someone to get out of your house. It's cheaper than having to go through the legal process, get an attorney, and and so on. So what you want to do, obviously, if you're going to do that cash for keys, you're going to have to put some conditions on how they get the money back, i.e. they leave the property in the same condition, they leave the property on the certain agreed date. So there's certain things that they have to agree to in order to get the money. So yeah, I try not to buy houses with people in there, but if I do, which I haven't done before, well, I have done the first one, it was like that, then you want to try and speak to the tenants before you buy and see if you can craft some kind of relationship or understanding and meeting in the minds, and and so on. If it's depending on your state where you live, if you have month-to-month tenants, then you can give them a 30-day notice. The problem is that if they don't leave, then they are what they call holdover tenants, which means that now you have to get rid of them through the legal process, which can be lengthy as well. So, my friends, that is it. Thank you so much. So again, I think we had a good session today. As usual, you kept me on my toes, all these questions that you're asking me. I appreciate that. If you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email at joe@joeasamoah.com, joe@joeasamoah.com. As I said before, we're going to do the Ask Dr. Joe now, whereby if you want more time with me, if you want to do one-on-one with me, we're going to have a mechanism whereby you can pay. It's very reasonable. I'm not trying to gouge anybody, but you can pay for 30 minutes or 60 minutes of my time. And therefore, if you have a pressing question, pressing situation, a deal that you're looking at, or a tenant issue, or whatever it is, you can book a time and we can get together. So shoot me an email if you're interested. Once I get more details, then I'll share that with everybody, maybe next week and so on. So with that said, then, my friends, I'm going to wrap it up, and I hope that you have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Take care. Bye for now.